The invitation. Beth opens an old, unmarked envelope with a faded letter. Beth reads the letter aloud. You are invited to reconnect with your past at the village. Her face shifts from curiosity to unease. Suddenly, a quick flash of a dark, misty village comes to her mind, and a locket in her hand that matches one worn by a child in an old photo she got from her mother. Beth stares at the locket, a chill running through her as if she's being watched. She whispers, I need to know. She grabs a small bag, packing with determination, but visible fear. Beth closes the door to her apartment. Some pasts can't stay buried. Beth arrives in the misty village. Silence fills the air, and villagers stand frozen, watching her from windows and doorways as she walks. She notices strange symbols carved into doorways and on trees, and the village feels stuck in time. Quick flashes show a child's photograph on a notice board. It's her as a young girl, dated long before her birth. Beth touches her locket, whispering, Why do they know me? She pulls her hand back, feeling watched. As she turns, she hears a whisper, Welcome back, Beth. But no one is there. She shivers, looking around in fear, the sound lingering in the silence. Beth backs away slowly, her gaze haunted. Some places never let you go. That night, Beth hears chanting from the woods and follows the sound. Fog surrounds her as she sees hooded villagers gathered around an altar, chanting, their faces hidden. Beth saw a locket held above the altar that matches hers, glowing as they chant. Beth's eyes widen in horror as she realizes the connection to her own locket. Shadows flicker over the trees, creating an unsettling aura. Beth watches in terror, clutching her locket as it starts to pulse and grow warm in her hand. The chanting stops abruptly. The villagers turn as if sensing her presence. Beth freezes, hearing her name echo from the shadows. Beth. Beth gasps, backing away. Beth runs through the village, the haunting whispers following her. She finds herself drawn to an ancient stone altar in the village square, realizing it's where her journey began. She stands in front of the altar, gripping the locket as it glows in her hand. She realized there was no other choice. She had to destroy it. You've haunted me long enough. This ends tonight. The village around her starts to flicker and dissolve, as if breaking free from an ancient curse. The chanting fades, and the village begins to disappear, leaving her standing in an open field under the moonlight. The locket turns cold and falls to the ground, empty. Silence falls as Beth breathes a sigh of relief, free but haunted by the mystery of what she has left behind. Beth looks back one last time at the empty field. To escape the past, some things must be sacrificed. If you enjoyed this journey, remember to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more mysteries. Imagine moving into your dream home, only to discover it's hiding something terrifying. In 1967, the Miller family moved into a farmhouse in Allegheny Islands, not knowing it had a sinister past. But soon, strange things started happening. Catherine Miller, the mother, noticed the little things first. Lights hallway blinking, doors opening on their own, cold spots that gave you chills, and shadows lurking just out of sight. As days went by, the hauntings got more intense. The family began hearing whispers at night, and their daughters felt an unseen presence watching them while they slept. Catherine began to fear that they weren't alone, but the true horror hadn't even begun. The Miller family was desperate for answers, so they called in renowned paranormal investigators, Joe and Lily Campbell. The Campbells were no strangers to haunted houses, but even they weren't prepared for what they found. Lily, a clairvoyant, immediately sensed a dark presence. She identified the spirit of Zarael, a witch who had lived in the house in the 1800s and was rumored to have cursed it. Zarael was believed to have performed dark rituals, even sacrificing her own child to curse anyone who entered the house. Lily warned the Millers that Zarael's spirit had attached itself to Catherine. As the hauntings got worse, the Campbells realized they would have to confront Zarael's spirit head-on. In the ultimate showdown, Joe and Lily Campbell prepared to exorcise Zarael's spirit from the Miller house. This wasn't an ordinary exorcism. It was a battle for the lives of everyone involved. As they began the ritual, Zarael fought back with violent force. The house shook, objects flew across the room, and Catherine was overtaken by Zarael's presence. The Campbells fought with everything they had, and after hours of struggle, they managed to weaken the spirit enough for the Millers to escape. Though the Millers left, the house remains haunted to this day. Could you spend a night in a place like this? The Pet That Never Left, Part 1. Emily, a young girl cuddling her black kitten, Shadow. She adored her kitten very much. They were inseparable. However, that night Shadow didn't come home, so she searched frantically outside. "Shadow, Shadow, where are you?" Emily shouted as she walks in the middle of the night. She searched everywhere, but Shadow was gone. Emily's crying in bed, whispering, "Please come back." Then she went back to sleep. Suddenly she feels a weight at her feet. She wakes up and sees Shadow curled up. "Shadow, you're back." She reaches to pet him, but her hand goes through him. Shadow's eyes glow before he vanishes. "What is going on?" she gasped, voice tinged with fear. The next morning, Emily sits at the breakfast table, wide-eyed. "Mom, Dad, I saw Shadow last night," she insists, her voice trembling. Her mom sighs, exchanging a glance with her dad. "Emily, honey, Shadow's gone. You must have been dreaming." That night, a faint scratching echoes at Emily's window. She hesitates, heart racing, then looks over. Shadow's ghostly silhouette presses against the glass, hollow meows escaping into the night. "Shadow, is that really you?" The next night, Shadow's presence grows stronger. Phantom purrs, icy touches drifting around her room. His eyes seem to glow, fixing on her. Realization dawns as Shadow edges closer. He didn't come back to stay. He came back to take her with him. A young boy, Peter, lies in bed, illuminated by the bright light of his cell phone. He's scrolling intensely. This is Peter. He can't put his phone down, not even at night. What happens when you're always plugged in? The clock shows at 2:15 a.m. The ticking sound echoes ominously. But as the hours pass, something sinister begins to happen. Shadows in the room start to bend and warp. The phone screen flickers, displaying unsettling images and distorted faces. His phone shows him more than just videos. They start to reach out. Quick flashes of dark figures emerging from the screen, whispering, "Join us, Peter. Don't look away." The shadows creep closer to him. The more he scrolls, the more they come alive, drawing near from the darkness. Peter's face fills with panic as he tries to turn off the phone, but the screen glows brighter, revealing terrifying images that pull him in. Addicted to the glow, he can't escape their grasp. They want him. Forever. Shadows swirl around him, wrapping tightly. Peter drops the phone, gasping for breath, eyes wide with fear. Now he's trapped in a nightmare of his own making. Eerie whispers echo. "Stay with us, Peter." A ghostly message breaks through the static. "All officers are dead, possibly the entire crew. I die." This is the horrifying mystery of the SS Orang Medan. In 1947, a Dutch freighter named the Orang Medan sent a final desperate call for help. When the American ship Silver Star arrived, what they found was beyond terrifying. The entire crew lay dead, eyes wide open, mouths twisted in silent screams. Even the ship's dog was found dead, teeth bared as if snarling at some invisible terror. No injuries, no struggle, just terror. The Silver Star crew searched for answers. But then, smoke started pouring from the ship's hull, so they decided to go back to their ship. Suddenly, the Orang Medan exploded and disappeared into the sea, taking its dark secrets with it. Was it toxic gas, a supernatural curse, or something beyond human understanding? A young girl, Olive, plays in her room, smiling and looking toward an invisible friend. Olive was a happy, playful child, and like many kids, she had an imaginary friend named Lucy. Lucy was kind, always there when Olive needed her. But as time went on, things started to change. Olive's laughter grew quieter, her smiles forced. The room is now dimly lit. Olive plays alone, glancing nervously to her side. Suddenly, her favorite doll tumbles off a shelf. Olive freezes, staring at it in fear. Lucy wasn't the friend Olive thought she was. She began demanding Olive's attention, whispering that she didn't like sharing. Shadows stretch across the room as Olive backs away, eyes wide. She reaches for the door, but it slams shut by itself. And one day, Olive realized Lucy wasn't imaginary at all. Lucy was something darker, waiting to take her place. Olive's expression shifting from fear to a blank, eerie smile. It's clear Olive is no longer herself. Sometimes imaginary friends aren't pretend. They're just waiting. As Sarah settled into her dimly lit home, a soft thud resonated from the hallway. Thinking it was just her imagination, she shook it off. But with each creak of the floorboards, the sound grew closer, a rhythmic echo in her solitude. Heart racing, she moved cautiously, peering into rooms filled with shadows and silence. The thudding followed her, relentless, like a heartbeat in the dark. Desperate for comfort, she reached for her phone, but the screen flashed ominously, no signal. Suddenly the noise halted. Silence engulfed her, heavy and suffocating. Just as she exhaled in relief, a whisper brushed her ear, sending chills down her spine. You weren't alone. We're here, waiting. Subscribe for more short, chilling stories. 'Cause sometimes silence is louder than any scream. I was halfway asleep when the first knock came. Soft, deliberate. I glanced at the clock, 3:00 a.m. The second knock followed, louder this time, like whoever was at the door knew I was awake. My apartment is on the 6th floor. No one comes here unannounced. My heart pounding, I peeked to the keyhole. The hallway was empty. The faint hum of the building's old pipes the only sound I hear. Then, the third knock came behind me. I turn around facing my bedroom closet. My breath hitched. Then I locked the front door. As the handle began to turn, I realized something terrible. Whatever was knocking hadn't been trying to get in. It was already here with me. And it wasn't knocking to leave. Lila had always felt uneasy in the old house her family inherited. Late at night, whispers slithered through the walls, weaving tales of despair. One evening, driven by curiosity, she traced the sounds to a loose floorboard in her room. Heart racing, she pried it open, revealing a dusty journal. The pages were filled with frantic scrawls, detailing the life of a girl who once lived there. Each entry grew darker, hinting at a sinister presence that consumed her. As Lila read, the whispers intensified, growing angry and desperate. Suddenly, a cold hand gripped her shoulder. She turned, but no one was there. The next day, the journal was gone, and Lila realized she was now part of the story. Lily had always loved her antique mirror, a family heirloom that hung in her dimly lit hallway. One night, she noticed something off. Her reflection smiled back, even when she didn't. Shaking it off, she went to bed. The next morning, she woke to find the mirror cracked, a jagged line splitting her image. Concerned, she covered it with a sheet. But as the days passed, strange whispers filled the air, calling her name, coaxing her closer. One evening, driven by an unseen force, she pulled the sheet away. Her reflection stepped out, eyes dark and hungry. "I've waited so long," it hissed. As it grasped her wrist, the world faded, leaving behind only silence and a shattered mirror, forever reflecting an empty hall. A young boy, Liam, lies in bed with a faint blue glow from his phone. His face shows exhaustion but determination to stay awake. Liam refuses to sleep, night after night, until everything starts to change. What happens when you skip sleep? The ticking sound grows louder, mixed with eerie whispers. When you lose sleep, they start to notice you, the things lurking in the dark. Shadows around the room begin to stretch and twist, forming unsettling shapes, and you will hear echoing whispers. "Liam, Liam, Liam." more nights he stays awake, the closer they come, watching and waiting. With no sleep, reality fades, and they come to life. Liam pulls down the blanket to peek, only to see a twisted reflection of himself in his closet mirror, eyes hollow, face distorted, smiling back with a sinister grin. They feed on exhaustion. The weaker you get, the stronger they grow. Shadows engulf the room, with sinister faces and hissing whispers that fill the air. "Come to us, Liam. We're waiting," they said. And they close in around him, consuming him in darkness. Don't let them find you. Get some sleep. As the clock struck midnight, Sarah rushed to the train station, breathless and panicked. The last train of the night was supposed to leave in minutes. She barely made it, collapsing into a seat beside a cloaked figure. The train lurched, lights flickering ominously. Sarah felt an unsettling chill as the figure turned, revealing hollow eyes. She tried to scream, but only silence filled the air. The train sped through dark tunnels, each jolt pulling her deeper into dread. Suddenly the lights went out. A whisper echoed, "You shouldn't be here." When the lights returned, the figure was gone. Sarah realized she was alone, her reflection in the window staring back, but the train didn't stop. Leah was driving to town when she noticed a black car following her. She tried to lose it, but it swerved and crashed into her. She blacked out. When Leah woke up, she was lying on a thin mattress in a dim, windowless room with an IV in her arm. Confused and scared, she had no idea where she was or how she got there. Suddenly, the door opened, and an older man entered, his face worn and serious. She asked, "What happened? Where am I? I want to go home." But he shook his head. "I can't let you leave. People are dying outside. If you go out, you'll end up like them. It's safer here." Leah's heart raced with fear. "What's going on?" she asked. His face grew dark. "You'll know soon enough. Just don't try anything foolish." Feeling trapped and terrified, Leah realized she might be stuck in a nightmare she couldn't escape. Every night Amelia heard her son humming a lullaby, a sweet, haunting melody that floated through the dimly lit house. Yet, as she tucked him in, he would only smile, saying it was sung by his new friend. Confused but relieved he was happy, she dismissed her unease. One night, the humming grew louder, echoing from the basement. Heart racing, Amelia descended the creaking stairs, following the sound. At the bottom, she found her son swaying, eyes glazed, cradling an empty air. "He wants to play," he whispered. In that instant, the melody shifted, dark and twisted. The basement door slammed shut, and her son smiled wider, revealing teeth too sharp for a child. The lullaby continued, drowning out her screams forever. Like and subscribe for more chilling tales. The hospital air was thick with antiseptic as Julia started her night shift. She was assigned to the old wing, abandoned after mysterious incidents years ago. As she walked the dim halls, faint whispers echoed from behind closed doors. Peeking into one room, she saw words scrawled across the walls, frantic messages of despair and madness, marked by smeared handprints. Suddenly, a scream pierced the silence. Julia rushed into the next room, finding only an empty bed. Her breath caught as the writing on the walls began to shift, spelling her name. Julia felt a chill. This place was alive, and it had no intention of letting her leave. Stay with us. Subscribe to keep the shadows growing. Lila had always felt uneasy in the old house her family inherited. Late at night, whispers slithered through the walls, weaving tales of despair. One evening, driven by curiosity, she traced the sounds to a loose floorboard in her room. Heart racing, she pried it open, revealing a dusty journal. The pages were filled with frantic scrawls, detailing the life of a girl who once lived there. Each entry grew darker, hinting at a sinister presence that consumed her. As Lila read, the whispers intensified, growing angry and desperate. Suddenly, a cold hand gripped her shoulder. She turned, but no one was there. The next day, the journal was gone, and Lila realized she was now part of the story. Every night, Emily heard whispers coming from the walls. At first, she thought it was her imagination, but the voices grew clearer. They called her name, coaxing her to come closer. One evening, curiosity overpowered her fear. She pressed her ear against the cold plaster, and the whispers turned into frantic pleas. "Help us, Emily!" Terrified, she ran to her parents, but they dismissed her fears as a child's fantasy. Alone in her room, she decided to confront the whispers. As she approached the wall, the voices crescendoed into screams of agony. Suddenly, the wall cracked open, revealing a dark void. Emily felt cold hands grip her ankles, dragging her into the darkness, the voices now silenced forever.
At midnight, Lily awoke to soft whispers drifting through her bedroom. She strained to hear, heart quickening as the voices called her name. "Lily, come play." It sounded like her friends from school. She sat up, glancing at the clock, its hands frozen at 12. Confused, she slipped from bed, drawn to the window. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. "We're waiting for you." Outside, shadows twisted under the moonlight. Lily crept toward the door, inching it open. The hallway was dark, but she felt compelled to follow the voices. As she stepped outside, a chilling realization struck her. Her friends were gone, vanished years ago. The whispers suddenly ceased, replaced by silence. She was alone, hunted by the ghosts of her past.